今。
お仕事ご苦労。
それほどでもございます。
When Apothecary Diaries first hit the screens of adoring fans, many instantly resonated with the titular gremlin character Maomao. She's simply a quirky, fun character with an entertaining addiction to both poison and medicine. Add on to that a troubled childhood that fuels a complex personality, and we've got ourselves a prime MC to root for. Now, with that in mind, why is it that some members of the fanbase have a problem with a certain character named Jinshi? That's right, Maomao's very own Prince Charming has some raising up their pitchforks and dislike. Well, personally, I can't see why anyone would have a problem with this masochistic prince, but let's try and give it a shot. Let's dive into what makes Jinshi a red flag and why exactly that isn't entirely a bad thing. A wolf in Eunuchs clothing.
そういえば、あの時。
何かかけるものさえあれば。
Going back to when we first got introduced to Jinshi, he displays everything you'd want from a pretty boy MC. He's got the sense of responsibility to care for the courtesans, as well as the clever smarts to track down Maomao in the inner palace. Add on to that, he's just a pretty boy to boot. Yeah, I'm sure the Fujos can have some fun with that, but like with most pretty boys, they tend to act kinda ugly. For Exhibit A, just look at how he almost feeds Maomao honey with his hands in this one scene, completely without her consent. I mean, I'd love to do that too, but you gotta respect personal space. Speaking of, he even went for her nape once.
Arigato.
Now that's something you usually save for after the wedding, my guy. Aside from a lack of respect for personal space, he just overall has a very clingy attitude towards Maomao. Oftentimes, he'd appear literally out of nowhere just to see her disgusted face. Same though. Jinshi just tends to act like someone who's not really used to receiving a no, particularly due to his amazingly beautiful looks and charm. But as we come to know later on, this is all proven to be all too painfully true. Back when Jinshi was but a young cute child, he'd often be obsessed with the toys he plays with. At some point, even Gaoshun had trouble separating Jinshi from his favorite toys, as he'd let out a terrible cry. This personality of his is also one that stuck over the years, especially shown with his time with Maomao. When Jinshi had Maomao released from the inner palace due to a communication issue, you could just see how much despair affected him. Never in a million years did he want Maomao to willingly ask for leave, and funny enough, he was right. He had mistakenly thought Maomao's wish was to leave, not fully understanding her wishes. While Jinshi had definitely shown favor at times before this, their relationship at this point wasn't any further from a child and his plaything, visiting her often for quick entertainment and even giving her a hairpin to mark her as his own.
痛いです。
そうか。やる。
Though, of course, just as we worry for our phones when we enter some sketchy website, Jinshi can't have Maomao hitting up poison just for fun. Which is kinda ironic since he set her up with a job as a poison tester. It just goes to show how his values and attitude are shaped by the unfortunately complex environment he's had to live with. All that came before, women especially only ever desired his company, his beauty. But of course, Maomao is someone who's flipped this around as she started with less than zero affection towards Jinshi and wanted no part of any pretty boy hands. Only batons, I suppose. Ooh, ouch. Jinshi isn't all just about HR problems though. Behind his alluring face is a mind very keen on the inner workings of politics. I mean, the very reason he's in the inner palace in the first place is because the emperor trusts him to ensure the safety of his heir. And that itself is due to the fact that Jinshi refuses to inherit the throne himself. From what we see, he is a very capable individual, constantly on top of all the machinations within the palace. Oftentimes when Maomao would catch wind of some case, Jinshi's already deep into it before he eventually asks for her opinion on things. And despite how much both Gaoshun and Jinshi care for Maomao, there are cases where they ask for her advice without actually telling her the whole truth.
ロビン虫が好きだ。頼んだぞ、薬や。
バレてたか。
It is a reality that Maomao has no real political standing, and in hindsight, it's best she's kept away from any information too dangerous. But as you've already guessed, while Jinshi is plenty capable, he's only at his best when Maomao is around. And we're at our best when we get a super thanks, so do hit that button down below and let us have it. Pretty please. But as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more awesome content like this one. And make sure to join the comments too if you want in on defending anime's pretty prince. Making a prince charming.
何をするのですか?
医務室へ向かう。
So after all the creepy clinging and harassment levels of physical contact, why should we stand by Jinshi? Well, as we touched upon before, Jinshi is a man shaped by his environment, and so is every other character in this anime. And hey, I'm not saying we should justify all this and you should go about your own life giving honey and kissing the nape of your crushes. But taking in the context of the times and the nature of the character, you have to see how the setting and circumstances comes into play. Let's just look at Maomao for a second. While we can definitely gang up on Jinshi's flawed personality, Maomao is also in every right just as flawed. When we first meet her, she's woefully obsessed with medicine and poison and not really interested in anything else. That's the whole reason she's impervious to Jinshi's charm in the first place, showing nothing but disdain for this objectively pretty face. And she even admits later that her whole relationship with Xiaolan started purely for information gathering.
助ける義理もない。だけど、このままだと寝覚めが悪いので。
But yeah, I know, deep inside she does care strongly for people in trouble and always does her best to help out, even when it puts herself in danger. But you know something else? Jinshi is exactly the same. While Maomao did put herself at risk to reach out and help both Liwa and Gyokyo, Jinshi was already right on top of the case. Sure, there's not the same level of risk, but that's just the nature of their positions. Jinshi knows just how much is on his shoulders. That's why he's always upheld his identity as the inner palace beauty. No matter how things may get hairy with all the scheming and dirty tricks between the courtesans, he remains a pretty face, free to intervene and gather whatever information he needs. Same battle, different weapons. While Jinshi can be a bit too touchy at times, Maomao often values her own self too little.
いい加減にしなさいよ! 言葉を間違えたな。
Jinshi capitalizes on opportunities. Once again, this is all pretty ironic. While Jinshi makes full use of his charm, Maomao masks her own natural beauty. Having said all that, it's not like Jinshi's completely devoid of human emotion here. I don't mean to paint him as a sort of uber-intelligent political machine who just seduces women to reach his ends. Jinshi at his core is just a child running from his responsibilities. And that may sound a bit odd considering he's plenty responsible as we've already discussed, but this whole charade in the inner palace, while complex, is but a speck of the responsibility he should have as future heir to the emperor's seat. Instead of an entire harem, he would be managing an entire nation. Now, that is quite an upgrade. Speaking of, all that just lends to why the dynamic between Jinshi and Maomao is so special. It isn't just a mere case of sadist and masochist. Jinshi and Maomao's relationship represents one that is very problematic in the time and place they're in. And this is no mere fanfiction. Constantly throughout the show, we're shown the difference between those of royal power and those with none to speak of. The unfortunate have nothing but their wits and guile, clawing their way to the best outcome they can. And sometimes that's simply too much of a fairy tale to be reality. In this historical setting, people die and people die quite easily. And if death is not what favors them that day, maybe they get sold into slavery or perhaps even fall into extreme disease. And that last bit is exactly what moves me in particular. While Lacan was unsuspecting and Feng Shan powerless, the latter succumbed to both circumstance and illness. In contrast, as Maomao lay crumpled on the ground, hurt and unconscious, Jinshi was able to, without hesitation, bring her into his arms and carry her to safety. An act, while extremely human, is elevated by the context of the times. For one such as Jinshi to not only help a servant, but carry her close with his own arms, that is an act of defiance. An act of love in a loveless place. While definitely equipped with beautiful charm, Jinshi is also a man capable of being a knight in shining armor, which hopefully we'll even get more of a glimpse of by the end of the second season. Even their past represents a sort of parallel. Having grown up in royalty, Jinshi is the definition of sheltered, but that isn't to say he's exactly had a home. While Aduo has acted as both friend and mother, that's pretty much as far as his social life has gone, besides Suren and Gaoshan being his caretakers. In essence, since he hasn't really experienced a by-the-book definition of love. And the same can be said for Maomao. With Lacan and Fengshan having a drama story worthy of its own anime, Maomao was left to grow up in the company of the Verdigris house and one apothecary by the name of Lomen. Sure, Lomen and the courtesans of the house do care and love Maomao in their own way, but the fact of the matter is Maomao was often left alone with literally no one tending to her cries. While both may have people who cared and even loved them, neither really had the opportunity to truly show their own love towards someone else. Quite frankly, these two are just made for each other. Both were born from a complex past, both were born to women in the culture of sex, both have a father that they, whether unwittingly or unwillingly, will ultimately live up to. A yang to her yin. That's just who Jinshi is.
ごをください。にゃー。ほんと。
Hope you had a fun time diving deep into today's Crown Prince. Either way, do remember to smash that like button and make sure to subscribe and share if you want to see more. Also, don't forget to comment down below what you thought of today's video. What were your first impressions of Jinshi? Did your opinion of him change over the course of the anime? We can't wait to hear it. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be seeing you again next time.